Hello, I'm Nakia Basharuddin and this is Nightline, your top stories. New Bandar Malaysia turns sea country gain over 4 billion ringgit in profit. And US Securities and Exchange Commission says that Sri Najib received bribes from 1MDB bonds. Welcome. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has expressed hope that the KL Summit 2019 will pave the way for bigger things for the Muslim community. The Prime Minister said this on Wednesday night at the welcoming dinner for the summit participants at a hotel close to the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre, the venue of the four-day event. He also shared with the audience as to why the summit is being convened in the Malaysian capital.
We have endeavoured to hold this summit because we feel that we have to do something to improve the lives of Muslims the world over. We feel that we need to overcome Islamophobia. We need to find a way to address our shortcomings, our dependency on non-Muslims to protect ourselves against the enemies of Islam.
The Prime Minister, who is the KL Summit chairman, also took the opportunity to highlight Malaysia's multicultural and multi-religious coexistence. He added that while the majority of Malaysians are Muslims, the country has a substantial minority who are from different faiths, cultures, customs and ways of life. He also highlighted the fact that despite the differences, Malaysians have been able to live alongside one another and work together to build a nation that is prosperous, peaceful and harmonious. Earlier, Tun Dr. Mahathir held bilateral meetings with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on the sidelines of the KL Summit 2019. The discussions in Perdana Putra, Putrajaya on Wednesday began with a 45-minute meeting between Tun Dr. Mahathir and Rouhani on the bilateral ties between both countries. The Iranian leader arrived in Malaysia on Tuesday. Tun Dr. Mahathir then met with Erdogan at 5:10 p.m. for another round of bilateral talks, which lasted for 45 minutes before both leaders proceeded to witness the exchange of several instruments of agreement between the two countries in various fields. These include cooperation in the fields of defense as well as science and technology. The two foreign leaders arrive in Malaysia to attend the KL Summit 2019 and will be joining other Muslim leaders, scholars and thinkers at the conference, which kicks off tonight and runs until Saturday. Meanwhile, the events leading up to the KL Summit 2019 kicked off on Wednesday with an event that discussed youth issues. The Youth KL Summit 2019 will be the first in the program of the summit, which will gather Muslim leaders, intellectuals and scholars as a platform to identify the problems afflicting the Muslim world and to find solutions to them. It kicked off with dialogues on 6 clusters aiming to strengthen the well-being of youth in the education sector, drive the digital economy and also adapting the challenges of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Our reporter Ezrina Amir Hamza has the details.
450 delegates from all over the world, namely Morocco, Syria, Palestine and Malaysia, of course, are here for the KL Summit 2019. And earlier this morning, I have attended for the Youth KL Summit 2019. And the theme for this year is Youth Empowerment in Facing Global Challenges, to be the drive for the discussion that they had yesterday. Resolutions submitted at the Youth Kuala Lumpur Summit, a prelude to the KL Summit, will be presented to Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad tomorrow. Earlier this morning as well, KL Summit Advisory Board member Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohamad, who received the documents earlier, said that efforts would be focused on ensuring that recommendations made by youth delegates and it would be implemented effectively and efficiently. On his role at the summit, Mustafa said he would be responsible for putting Memoranda of Understanding MOU together involving business-to-business collaborations as well as those between governments. All in all, the Youth Summit provided a platform to learn about opportunities for the younger generation to contribute to the growth of the Ummah and Islamic nations. The Youth KL Summit, which comes to an end today, is organized as a lead-up to the main KL Summit, which is held from today until Saturday. I guess that's all I can share for now. Thank you, and I'm Izrina Amir Hamzah. Thank you for watching Nightline TV3.
Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng on Wednesday rubbished claims that the Bandar Malaysia project has been revived without any changes to the terms. Lim said the renegotiation of the project's terms had allowed Malaysia to secure 4 billion ringgit worth of benefits. In a statement on Wednesday, Lim described claims by irresponsible quarters that the project would resume under the same terms as baseless. Lim said the new agreement signed on Tuesday included changes such as 10,000 affordable home units from the original 5,000 units, purchasing price terms to be paid within 3 years instead of 7, and the parks and recreational space now being 34.4 hectares instead of the original 19.7 hectares. Other improved terms include the project's deposit of 741 million ringgit with an additional advance payment of 500 million ringgit instead of the 741 million ringgit alone, and a 50-50 dividend payment between the project's developing consortium, Iskandar Waterfront Holdings, and China Railway Engineering Corporation, and the government-owned company TRX City Sdn Bhd. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, on Wednesday revealed that former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Mohammad Najib Tun Razak was one of the recipients of kickbacks from bonds raised for 1MDB. It was revealed during a cease and desist order in proceedings against former Goldman Sachs executive Tim Leissner. In the order, SEC said out of the $6.5 billion raised by the 3 bond transaction for 1MDB, Leissner and others instead executed a scheme to misappropriate more than $2.7 billion and distribute the money as kickbacks to government officials in Malaysia, including Datuk Sri Najib and to Leissner. Parts of the kickback money had also gone to officials in Abu Dhabi and the families of the participants in the scheme. SEC also claims that Leissner knew that Datuk Sri Najib would be receiving money from Project Maximus, the code name for one of the bond financing transaction. The money had passed through various shell companies owned and controlled by Leissner, Low-Tech Joe, also known as Jolo, and others. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, is also claiming that Datuk Sri Najib received $30 million under the Project Maximus phase. Previously, the DOJ also claimed that Datuk Sri Najib received an additional $681 million from Project Catalyze, the code name for another bond financing transaction. On to the SRC international trial. Datuk Sri Mohammad Najib Tun Razak told the High Court that he had no idea that 32 million ringgit was transferred into his personal bank account. The 66-year-old Pekan MP said this was because his account was managed by a third party who would have informed him if there were any suspicious transactions. The former Prime Minister also said the bank should have informed him as the account holder if such suspicion arises. Datuk Sri Najib was under cross-examination by ad hoc prosecutor Datuk V. Sithambaran, who questioned him on the transaction. Datuk Sithambaran also questioned Datuk Sri Najib's failure to lodge a police report regarding his allegation that his signature was forged in several documents relating to the trial. The prosecutor described Datuk Sri Najib's forgery allegation as an afterthought that was raised only during defense stage. This, however, was denied by Datuk Sri Najib. The prosecutor suggested Datuk Sri Najib's application to call a document expert as to bolster untruthful event of forgery, and Datuk Sri Najib disagreed. Datuk Sri Najib is facing 7 charges, 3 for criminal breach of trust, 1 for abuse of power, and 3 for money laundering involving SRC funds totaling 42 million ringgit. The hearing continues before Justice Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali on Thursday. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has never met convicted former police commander Chief Inspector Azila Hadri, who is currently on the death row for the murder of Mongolian national Altan Tuya Sharibu. The Prime Minister's office, in a statement on Wednesday, said Tun Dr. Mahathir has never once met Azila since the latter was imprisoned, denying news reports which claimed otherwise. There were also attempts to allude that Tun Dr. Mahathir was the VVIP who allegedly met with Azila, who is on death row at the Kajang prison in February this year. The statement also dismisses allegations that the government is behind Azila's revelation of Datuk Sri Najib Razak's involvement in the murder of Altan Tuya, as stated in his recent statutory declaration. Former Special Action Force UTK police officer Azila Hadri has never been taken out of Kajang prison. This was confirmed by the prison's department in a statement issued on Wednesday, adding that the individual had not left the prison since April 15, 2015. The statement further said that the last time Azila was taken out of Kajang prison was on April 15, 2015, when he attended a trial at the Sepang Magistrates Court. Prison officials escorted him for the trial after they received the order from the court to produce him under Section 30 of the Prisons Act, which allows a prisoner to attend court at the time and place stated. Based on records since the date, Azila was never allowed to leave the prison for any reason, and he only received visits from his family 34 times and 15 times by his lawyer since last year. The department also stressed that allegations that Azila was brought out of the prison this year to meet a VVIP was not true. Earlier, Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's lawyer, Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, had alleged that Azila had been brought out from death row at Kajang prison in February to meet a VVIP. He also told the media that he believed there was a coordinated political assassination plot against his client. A few days ago, it was reported that Azila had made public a statutory declaration claiming that the former Prime Minister ordered him to kill Altan Tuya in 2006 when the Pekan MP was then the Deputy Prime Minister. Azila also alleged that Datuk Sri Najib had ordered him to shoot to kill Altan Tuya as she was a dangerous foreign spy, which the ex-PM had strongly denied. The statutory declaration, dated October 17th, was made as part of his application to review his conviction and death sentence for the murder, which will be heard by the federal court on April 20th next year. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad wants Sabah and Sarawak to consider Petronas's position as a global oil company when studying the proposal to own stakes in the company. The Sarawak Chief Minister's office, in a statement on Wednesday, said Tun Dr. Mahathir made this point during his meeting with the state's Chief Minister, Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari Tun Openg, and Sabah Chief Minister, Datuk Sri Muhammad Shafi'i Abdal in Putrajaya on Monday. During the meeting, the Prime Minister invited both Sabah and Sarawak to explore the idea of owning stakes in Petronas, taking into consideration that the national oil company is a global player with concessions overseas, particularly in Central Asia, Africa and North America. During the meeting, Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari said that Sarawak had to study the proposal in depth in order to strengthen the participation of the state-owned oil and gas company in the industry's downstream and upstream activities in Sarawak. The second wave of flooding in Kelantan saw more than 3,748 victims displaced from their homes as of 10 p.m. 5 districts were flooded, namely Tanah Merah, Pasir Putih, Kuala Krai, Machang and Jeli, with the highest number of flood victims at 1,969. In Johor, 2,630 victims were affected in 6 districts. The inundated districts are Batu Pahat, Kluang, Kota Tinggi, Segamat, Pontian and Mersing, which recorded the highest number of evacuees, with 845 in 9 relief centres. Over in Pahang, 1,073 people were affected and placed at 8 relief centres in 3 districts. Rompin had the highest number of victims at 829. In Sarawak, there were also flooding in Miri with 9 victims affected. And finally, in Terengganu, 101 people from 2 districts, Dungun and Hulu Terengganu, were evacuated to 4 relief centres as rain continues to drench the east coast. Permodalan Nasional Berhad (PNB) has announced an income distribution of 5 sen a unit and a bonus of 0.5 sen for Amanah Saham Bumiputra ASB for 2019, despite a 7.2% contraction in Bursa Malaysia's FBM-KLCI year-to-date. Its chairman, Tan Sri Zeti Akhtar Aziz, said this will involve a total payout of 9 billion ringgit to more than 10 million unit holders. PNB also declared an income distribution of 2.75 sen per unit for Amanah Saham Nasional ASN for the financial year 2019, with a total payout of 49 million ringgit, benefiting 1.22 million unit holders. It also said that the transactions for ASB and ASN have been temporarily suspended from December 18, 2019 to January 1, 2020. Unit holders may check and update their accounts on January 2, 2020. DBKL orders immediate removal of controversial Sugar Books billboard ads. This and more home stories after the break. Welcome back. Malaysia is pulling all stops to position itself as the logistics hub in the region. Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siew Fook said talks were underway with foreign companies to relocate to Malaysia, using the country as their logistics hub.
Kos mengendalikan perniagaan ia masih amat kompetitif berbanding dengan negara-negara lain, dan kita harap kita dapat menggunakan sepenuhnya kelebihan yang ada pada kita untuk terus memasarkan Malaysia sebagai sebuah negara yang berpotensi sebagai logistik hub ini.
Loke said this to reporters after the launch of the Kuala Lumpur International Logistics and Transport Exhibition, KILAT 2020, on Wednesday. Loke said that in the next 1 to 2 years, Malaysia would focus on getting more multinational companies, MNCs, to set up base here. Earlier, the minister said in his speech that the transportation sector had been the backbone of the country's growth, which enabled efficient movement of passengers and goods across borders. He said Malaysia's strategic location, modern transport infrastructure, knowledgeable workforce, and advanced IT infrastructure made the country an interesting value proposition for investors to continue making Malaysia their first choice for investment. LED billboard advertisements belonging to a dating app called Sugar Book have now been instructed to be removed. This as the content of the advertisements displayed on the structure did not receive the approval of the Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL. DBKL's Corporate Planning Department Media Unit in a statement said the Sugar Book electronic advertisements put up in Bangsar and Bukit Kiara were deemed by many as lewd and inappropriate, and investigations found that the Federal Territories Foundation, YWP, which holds the license for the advertisement structure, was not informed on the controversial adverts by outdoor advertising company Out of Home as the billboard operator. Photos of the billboard advertisements have gone viral on social media, with many voicing concern on the nature of Sugar Book's business. YWP in a statement said it has called up the billboard operator and issued a warning and show cause letter to the company today. Checks by YWP also found that the digital ads were no longer displayed. Meanwhile, Sugar Book founder and Chief Executive Officer Darren Chan has denied that the women using the dating platform known as Sugar Babies are illegal sex workers. He also believes that it is unfair to call for the app to be banned in Malaysia. On its website, Sugar Book describes itself as a social networking platform that helps build beneficial relationships with our society's elite. In Kuala Lumpur, 4 men, including a state assemblyman, pleaded not guilty at 2 high courts on Wednesday to charges relating to terrorist group, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam (LTTE), in 2014 and 2019. Surumanjaya State Assemblyman P. Gunasakaran, age 60, DAP member V. Suresh Kumar, 43, businessman B. Subramaniam, 57, and scrap metal trader A. Kalai Mugilan, 28, made the plea after the charges were read out to them separately in Tamil and Bahasa Melayu in front of judges Datuk Muhammad Jamil Hussein and Muhammad Zaini Mazlan. The four were accused of giving support to LTTE by using Facebook under different names. Kalai Mugilan, meanwhile, is also facing 3 other LTTE-related charges of distributing items, giving support at a ceremony, and giving support on the YouTube application. Judge Muhammad Jamil set January 20th for case management for Guna Sekaran, January 15th for Suresh Kumar and Subramaniam, and January 3rd for Kalai Mugilan. In Malacca, the Ayakuro Sessions Court on Wednesday disallowed the bail applications of 2 assemblymen and Chief Executive Officer, CEO, who were charged last month with supporting terrorist group LTTE. Judge Elizabeth Paya 1 rejected the applications of Gade Assemblyman G. Saminathan, 34, Srumanjaya Assemblyman P. Gunasekaran, 60, and CEO of Corporation S. Chandru, 38, on the grounds that their cases involved national security. The judge also ruled that all 3 men had failed to show any exceptional circumstances meriting bail. In Sarawak, a man was killed when the motorcycle he was riding skidded and crashed into a drain at Jalan Pakam in Miri on Wednesday. The body of the victim, identified as 45-year-old Rashid Danwas, found by a member of the public who then alerted authorities at about 8 a.m. He was pronounced dead at the scene by medical personnel who arrived together with firefighters and policemen. The remains were brought to Miri Hospital for post-mortem. 13-year-old boy fatally shoots classmate for bullying. The details when we return. We're back with the foreign news. U.S. President Donald Trump has ripped into his political rivals in a fiery 6-page letter on the eve of the House historic impeachment vote, branding his impeachment as an illegal, partisan attempted coup and an abuse of power. In the letter addressed to Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Trump hit out at Democrats, accusing them of interfering in America's elections. Trump maintained that he did nothing wrong in seeking foreign investigation of political rivals and slammed Democrats for focusing on impeachment rather than other issues. The president also repeated his objections to the process of the House inquiry, claiming more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. The letter came as the House gears up to vote this week on whether to make Trump only the 3rd president in American history to be formally impeached. Over in Thailand, a 13-year-old boy fatally shot his classmate in central Nonthaburi province, claiming the deceased had been bullying him. According to local authorities, the fatal shooting occurred inside a public school in Tambon Bangkraso of Muang district around 8:30 a.m. It is understood that the deceased, identified as Cholansit Bunchan, age 13, was shot in the forehead in front of his classroom. Authorities said the suspect was wearing a black mask and gloves during the time of the incident. The suspect was reported to have tried to flee the scene by changing his clothes in the toilet, but was stopped by his teacher and other students. He was later taken into custody, and the police, however, did not disclose what charges would be pressed against the suspect. Preliminary investigations found that the gun used in the crime was stolen from his father. Also in Thailand, 2 days of heavy rains have inundated 5 districts in Narathiwat province and wreaked havoc on some 37,000 residents. The 5 districts flooded were Sukirin, Wayang, Sungai Kolok, Chane and Si Sakon. In a statement on Wednesday, the Narathiwat Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Division said so far 37,171 residents from 8,335 families were affected by the floods. As of now, officials were continuing to move flood victims to safe ground and distributing food, drinking water and other necessities. Meanwhile, Thailand's Meteorological Department forecasts heavy rains in Nakhon Si Thammarat, Patalong, Songkhla, Patani, Yala and Narathiwat in southern Thailand.